friends, and welcome to my pretend cooking show here in my kitchen. Today's recipe comes from Kristin Cavallari's True Roots cookbook. Now her cookbook is recipes free of gluten, dairy, and refined sugar. And today we're going to be making sweet potato pancakes. They are so delicious. Like I love them, and they're so easy, and there's not a lot of ingredients to them. So let's get started. So I have all my ingredients laid out in front of me here. So you need 4 eggs, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. You need just over half a cup of pureed sweet potato. You can also use butternut squash or pumpkin if you want. The recipe is for butternut squash pancakes, but I usually always have a sweet potato in my house, so I make them with sweet potatoes. To get the amount of sweet potato for the recipe, I usually just do 1 average size sweet potato. I don't really measure it, 1 potato per recipe. It's kind of what I do. And then half a cup of oat flour it calls for. I don't have oat flour, so I'm just gonna use regular flour. And it also calls for vanilla bean powder. I have searched high and low for this vanilla bean powder and can't find it. The only options that I have found are vanilla sugar, so it's like powdered sugar that tastes like vanilla, or I just use vanilla extract. So simple. So those are the ingredients. So you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna take your mixing bowl and you're gonna put everything into the bowl. Now that was easy. The recipe uses pink Himalayan salt. I love pink Himalayan salt. I actually use it for everything. I use it for just like my table salt, all my cooking. I love the pink Himalayan salt. So now that we have all of our ingredients in the bowl here, I'm just gonna give it a light little stir, just to like make sure that when I put it in the beater, it doesn't all fly out. The recipe uses pink Himalayan salt. I love pink Himalayan salt. I actually use it for everything. I use it for just like my table salt, all my cooking. I love the pink Himalayan salt. So now that we have all of our ingredients in the bowl here, I'm just gonna give it a light little stir, just to like make sure that when I put it in the beater, it doesn't all fly out at me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in my mixer here. Perfect. Here is the batter. So it's not too runny. It's got a good consistency to it, nice and thick. Okay, so now we're just gonna melt some coconut oil in the frying pan here. Now coconut oil doesn't take a long time to melt, so you shouldn't have to wait too long. And you want just enough that when you put your batter in, it kind of makes the edges of the batter a little bit crunchy. So I only cook maybe 1 to 2 pancakes at a time because they do cook pretty fast. And I usually cook them about medium to high heat because you don't want to cook them super fast. You want to cook them long and slow. That way you get a nice color on both sides. You don't have burnt pancakes. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen these before. These are for eggs, but I thought that I'd give it a try for my pancake so I can get that nice, perfectly round pancake. So I'm gonna try it. I don't know how well it's gonna work out, but we'll give it a go. So you're gonna scoop your batter right in there. Just like so. And then I'm gonna do one without using the circle ring. I don't know how many of you watch This Is Us, but I love that show. And I love Jack Pearson. And my favorite, I think, quote of his is when he's talking about waffles. And he's like, oh, like, you know how when I make waffles on Saturday mornings, I usually toss out the first one. And he's like, either the iron's too hot or it's not hot enough or the batter's too thick or whatever. And he was like, boyfriends are kind of like your first waffles. You just toss the first one away. So I thought that was actually pretty hilarious, and it, when I was thinking about making this recipe for the show, that came to my mind, so I thought that was pretty funny. So I share the humor with you. Now to test if the pancakes are ready to be flipped over, the trick with pancakes, you don't want to flip them too much. It's kind of like a burger. You want to flip them one time, once on each side, that's it. So to check, just kind of peek underneath to see if it's got that nice like goldeny kind of color. See how we have the nice golden edges on the pancake? You can tell which one I used the ring for and which one I didn't, but they are looking mighty delicious. Now the recipe says it makes about 4 pancakes, but I can usually get about 7 or 8 pancakes out of a batch. It just depends how big you make them, but these ones, you can see here, they're just like average size pancakes. And every time that I make a pancake, I add a little bit more coconut oil to the pan, because the coconut oil actually evaporates pretty quickly off of the pan. And as you are cooking the pancakes, you may want to adjust the temperature. You may want to lower it down a little bit, because as you're cooking more pancakes, your pan is getting hotter and hotter as you go. So right now I'm setting more to about low to medium heat, as opposed to medium to high heat, because you don't want to burn pancakes. Nice, perfect. And usually when I make my pancakes, I double the batch, and I just make them all up, and then I put them in the freezer, and then when I want to have them for breakfast, I will pop them in the toaster and heat them up that way, and they taste just as good. Putting them in the toaster, even the toaster oven, you still get that nice like crunchy outside of the pancake, whereas if you put them in the microwave, they're super soggy, and nobody likes a soggy pancake. So that's how I reheat my pancakes. Yes, look at those pancakes. Now I've never been able to flip a pancake like a pro, but I kind of want to try. I don't know how this is going to go, but... Success! Now that is a mighty fine pancake. Okay, so today when I made the pancakes, I made 6 pancakes, plus a little extra batter to make a tiny little pancake, which I'm going to eat, but it's really hot. Now you can put syrup on these, you can put butter on them, you can eat them plain, whatever you want. I like them plain, they taste really good to me. Sometimes I'll eat them with a serving of fruit, that's really good too. But right now, I'm gonna just eat it plain. It's really hot, it just came off the pan. Really good. I'll show you the inside. Nice and fluffy. Really hot though. So if you're tired of your everyday pancake, switch it up. Try making these sweet potato pancakes, or you can do butternut, squash, pumpkin, whatever you have on hand, and serve them up for a nice, delicious breakfast. Well, that concludes today's episode of My Pretend Cooking Show, making Kristin Cavallari's True Roots butternut squash pancakes, but I made them with sweet potatoes. So hope you enjoy. Comment below if you like them, if you're going to try them. Tag me in your post when you do make them. I love to see. Have a great day. Cheers.